The GT3 journey continues for me on iRacing. After some decent results in races at Mexico in tricky conditions, the question this week, were those results a bit of an outlier, or was I really starting to understand how to get performance out of these GT3 cars? Well, these races at Barcelona, I think, really do answer that question well, so let's dive in. So we're going to jump straight into the action here. In a GT Sprint race, we have qualified in position 15 as door card number 22 as the field jumps away and we get the green light down the front straight here at Barcelona for this 40-minute race. Now we're going to key on the inside as we head down to turn number 1, looking left and right, braking early for this opening chicane. Coming down, one miss that sausage curb on the inside of turn 1, side by side, and the Mustang on cold tyres on the outside there of turn 3 disappears, and we're able to claim a couple of positions through this opening corners. Some more drama up in front, another Mustang struggling there on cold tyres, and we're able to then jump down the inside of this car number 26 Ferrari that had to go wide to avoid that Mustang behind. So it's a really good start to this race. I get on the brakes really hard there, trying to avoid the slow Mustang in front. That was a bit of a scary moment, really diving on the ABS there to get the car stopped, but we are safely through the middle of this lap. Coming out of turn number 7 and 8, another Mustang struggling on cold tyres. That is obviously a bit of a trait for that car around the circuit this week. We gain another position up into the top 10, and really good, strong opening, clean part to the start of this race. Now down to the hairpin, a bit of space around, some cars fighting behind and in front, but we can navigate that one cleanly up into this final section of the track. And coming down, we're using the chicane here, the former F1 GP circuit layout, and really tricky little part of the circuit here. Lots of light braking, getting the car turned. We're going to go around the outside, then holding the inside line of this BMW here, catching them off guard and picking up another position through the final part of this lap. So we go from P15 up into position number 9. What an awesome start to this race, but where does our pace truly stand? What will we be able to do for the rest of the 40 minutes? Well, as it turns out, we have certainly a decent pace in this race. We've closed in just over a second to this car number 6 BMW in front, and seeming he is a 3100 iRated driver, I always find it interesting when I get to match up against other drivers in exactly the same car as I have, just to start seeing where my pace is in some of these races. Now, it wasn't all easy for me though, as the car number 26 was directly behind and putting on some good pressure. You see a bit of a mistake there on lap number 5 coming into the final sector, and we would be vulnerable here without a decent exit. As it turns out, we get a little bit too gassed up out of this final corner here, and that Ferrari does have a bit of a run. You see dropping away to that car 6 in front. Down the front straight, the Ferrari now in the slipstream as we head down towards turn number 1, and he shows the nose here a little bit as we come into the braking zone, but doesn't really dive in too much here, leaving me space, and we're able to hold on to that one on this particular lap. This battle, however, does go back and forth a fair bit over these next few laps, and to be honest, I was enjoying settling in here, trying to race these guys and getting the hang of this Barcelona circuit, finding a little bit of pace along the way. Here we are on lap number 10, 23 minutes still to go, almost at the halfway mark. And we, again, at this stage of the race, do have a bit of pace here. Car number 6 wide at turn number 5, and it compromises my exit here as I try and get an inside run. And we're a bit slow to cover the inside for ourselves. The Ferrari getting the nose in at turn number 7, and we have to let that car by, dropping back to position number 10. And then he makes very short work of car number 6 down into turn 1 at the start of the very next lap. So doing what I was unable to, that Ferrari starts to skip away a little bit over the next few laps, and at this part of the race I do find that I've maybe pushed the car a little bit too hard through the first few laps trying to get an advantage on car 6, and I do struggle to hold on to the same gap that I had to this car as we start to approach the pit stops. Here, with 10 minutes to go, we all decide that it is time to come in, pretty much all there on some of the last laps of fuel in this limited fuel race. So we're going to come in and take that stop, and as we exit the pit stop here, that BMW has managed to fuel up and get into the lane a little bit faster. A little bit of contact here from the Ferrari as the pit exit, so we're back to having that car number 6 in front of car number 26, and the battle is going to rage on here with 6 minutes and 55 seconds still to go. Now, I wasn't quite able on the opening laps of the stint to really hold on to these guys. A little bit slower, tyres a bit overworked, you see there's a bit of a gap in front there. However, the pressure on car 6 does mount up and he makes a mistake into turn 7. Tricky with the rejoin coming back on, but we are able to sneak by that car and then pull a decent little gap for the last few laps of the race. So as we come into the final lap here, it was safe to say that we had a really strong start to our GT3 week here at Barcelona, getting through the race with no incident points and gaining a bunch of positions up to position 9 from position 15 did give me plenty of confidence, and having a clean start to a race week is so key to giving you that momentum going forward. So sealing that one over the line, solid iRating jump, and we were going to move on to race number 2, try and improve qualifying and see if we can't get up the ladder a tiny bit more. On to race number 2, and I was going to show you my fastest lap of the weekend set here in this qualifying session. I've been working really hard on my qualifying pace, and while it doesn't always go well, I'm certainly starting to see a little bit of an improvement because it is just so important. Diving down to turn 1, trying to get the apex just before that yellow sausage curb, bit there over the curbing at turn 2, and then trying to flow the car as nice as I can, getting on the power before seeing that orange bollard on the other side around the corner there, charging down to turn number 4 now as well, trailing all the way in to the apex, a little bit of throttle there, trying to keep the rotation going without losing the rear of the car, and then down to this tricky turn 5 downhill braking zone, trying to trail into the apex there, just missing the apex a little bit but doing enough to keep the momentum, nearly a second up on my previous fastest lap there. Now turn number 7 and 8 on the power as early as we can, up the hill to turn 9, a little bit of a brake to get the car rotated, using that curbing there as well, up and over the top, and now down the back straight to this important turn 10 braking zone, braking before the electronic sign there, and I brake a little bit early for this one, having to mount the curb there a bit too much, charging back up the hill into this final section, round turn number 12, trying to get it on the power, not lose the rear of the car again, trickier as the tyres are coming up to temperature, and then this awkward off camber turn 13 down into the chicane, missing the sausage curbs on the power, trying to just feed the car wide past that last sausage curb, around the final corner, avoiding all the track limits, just getting that one inside the track limits there, and we do set a 1 minute 44.994 competitive field. This one, it's going to be good enough for a P10 starting position. So coming around to take the start line, and it's a familiar car next to me, the Ferrari from the previous race, starting on my inside here. The field jumps away before the final corner, so we are a little slow on the outside through there, and we are immediately going to be taking on this familiar Ferrari driver down the front straight into turn number 1. He's holding the inside, so we're going to have a look a little bit around the outside here, trying to hold on around the outside of turn 1, and unfortunately not quite able to get the exit out of turn 2. He sneaks ahead, but no dramas. I know this driver is fast, and we are going to be able to follow him through here and hopefully make our way a little deeper into the top 10. Driving up to turn number 4 here, and it's a wide car at turn 4, another Ford, and then a spinner, another Mustang there. The Mustangs again showing how struggling on cold tyres, and then a knock from the BMW turns this car 9 sideways, and unfortunately we get turned around as we try and sneak our way by the inside there at turn number 5. Let's look back at the replay here, and as you can see, there's actually a knock from that BMW on the Mustang that pitches him into a spin. We actually do make a little contact to straighten him out, and then a combination of him trying to drive off and the Mercedes behind driving into the back of the Mustang does pitch me into a half spin, and we find ourselves pointing the wrong way. Here's a really good look at it. You see a little knock which straightens him up, and then he gets on the gas and drives into the side of me and turns me half around. It's a really frustrating start to what felt like a very promising race, but the car felt okay, and as you can see on the B-roll here, it's looking fine. So I had to set my mind to catching this train of cars and seeing how much of a recovery I can make in this 40-minute race. So we quickly catch up to the Mercedes-Benz. Now this is the car that drove into the back of the Ford Mustang, so he's carrying plenty of front end damage. Getting by him and then catching up to this car number 30 McLaren here into the start of lap number 4. We're going to have a look here at turn number 3, and the car 30 drives a bit on there, going wide. We're able to sneak the nose in down the inside. Decent exit side by side with the inside line for turn number 4. Plenty of car in front into the braking zone, and that allows us to sneak up a couple of positions now at lap number 4. Push ahead to the end of the next lap, and we have managed to catch up to another McLaren that's carrying some front end damage. But what I was really trying to get to was about this 30-minute mark to come in and perform this pit stop. Having lost those positions at the start, I was really keen to try and perform an undercut strategy and get myself into some clear air. And after being able to get to that point to fill the car up to make it to the end of the race, we were able to set about trying to make that happen. Now here a few laps later, we're coming up towards the back of car number 27, carrying a lot of rear end damage, this car, and we were going to try and quickly get by this one to not lose too much time in this undercut strategy. Poor exit from that Ferrari out of the chicane. He mounts that sausage curve a little bit, and we are going to be a little bit compromised as a result, but in the tow here down the front straight. The other thing to notice is that the large grandstands at Barcelona certainly show on the replays, but not in the race. If someone could tell me in the comments why that is, I'd greatly appreciate it. Diving down the inside of that car down into turn 1, nice solid move, holding on to that one as we come through turn number 3, and we would be able to continue to set our own pace here, trying to make up time, trying to see where we come up after all the stops have been performed. And I've got to admit that this next phase of the race did felt pretty decent. I was setting some mid 1 minute 45 second laps, and that were all better than my previous best lap in the previous race. So we were learning, we were finding time, and although the car had initially told me there was some wheel damage, it was quite obvious that the car was plenty capable of these sorts of times. Now to 10 minutes to go, and things were starting to unfold for me. Car 17 comes out of the lane here as we start lap number 17, and it's the next lap where things are really going to set off, about when I performed my pit stop during the last race. Coming into turn number 1 here, we're going to find ourselves in the middle of these two cars. The car number 16 Ford Mustang runs wide ahead into turn 1, but behind pressure from the purple BMW car number 14. He's trying to go around the outside at turn number 3. Doesn't work out too well, but this was where our race was, and the key one to note was that about 12 seconds back from me here was the car 21 Ford Mustang. That was the car that was directly in front of me when I came in to perform the undercut. So it had certainly been the right decision to come in and set those clean laps, and it was going to be interesting to see how at the end of the race, how many positions I was going to be able to make up. Just had to get these last few laps right, see if we can't put a few moves on here with this Ford Mustang and the green Mercedes-Benz in front. Coming through turn number 9, and again we're going to get a little bit of a loss there flashing lights from the BMW behind. I think he's just trying to distract me as we come down to turn number 10, but he's too far back to be a distraction. Coming around into this final sector, and I can see that car 16 runs a little bit wide at turn 12, trying to capitalize on that one on the power, and unfortunately get the car into a little bit of a slide, and it pitches into the gravel, into the wall, and it's a very disappointing way to get to the end of this race. Into the wall hard there. Fortunately, no more big damage, but as we see the line of cars come trekking by us here, the final car to come by is of course car number 21. So we have completely undone all of the hard work that we had done through that undercut strategy, and unfortunately find ourselves back into the 20s position, in position number 23. And it's a very unfortunate way to end this one. It could have been a really nice comeback, but 2 mistakes is too many. We're going to have to set about some redemption in race number 3. Unfortunately, we were in with a solid chance of redemption in race 3, as I find myself as door card number 1 for this 20-minute fixed setup race. Unfortunately, on my second qualifying lap, we go a little bit too deep into the turn 14 chicane, and a half-second advantage on my previous fastest lap was going to dissipate, and we were going to unfortunately start this race from position number 9, giving away what should have been a top 3 starting position. So it was all to play for here as we come around to take the start. The green light flies, we're going to jump away into this final corner, and once again a Ford Mustang on cold tyres disappears from the race start, and we are now side by side with car number 18 BMW as we charge down towards turn number 1. We do have an inside line, going to brake nicely for this one, clear that car into turn number 1, taking the racing line through, and so it's a strong 2-place jump at the start of this race. Now the Ferrari in front of us is the target. We come around turn number 3, realise that the car 18's got a little bit of a run on us, so it's a slightly defensive line into turn number 4. All eyes forward as we head down towards turn 5. Going to be very cautious through here, looking at every single car in front, making sure there is no dramas into this corner. Fortunately, we get out of there cleanly so we can look ahead at the rest of this race. Coming into the end of lap number 1 into this final section, and on fixed setup, I definitely noticed there was a lot more understeer in the BMW. You had to be a little bit more cautious, and on the exit there, the pink Iron Dames liveried McLaren disappearing towards the pit lane entry there in a slide. So we're up 3 positions at the start of this race. Coming into lap number 3 now, tyres are warming up, cars starting to feel good, and I need to put all of the learnings of the previous 2 races together here if we're going to find ourselves a little bit further up this grid. Coming through turn 3, a little bit of a run here, show the nose into turn number 4. No chance of an overtake there, just trying to be a little bit distracting. Car 18 is still on my tail as well, so looking forward and backwards. Coming into turn number 5, the Ferrari there, he goes wide. I'm able to put the nose in a little bit through the corner apex, and just showing the nose here, trying to get a little bit of a run, and we're going to be nice and bold, hard under brakes, getting that inside line and claiming the corner there, jumping up to position number 5. 15 minutes of this race still to go. Now for the next few laps, things did settle down. The tyres were bringing themselves in, finding a bit of a groove, and was going to be now all attack for the last half of this race. Having a look at the back here at car 17, he was going pretty good. There were some moments that were showing me that he maybe had a little bit of weaknesses, and this was one of them. Goes wide here into the chicane. He'd done this a little bit on previous laps, but that one was a little bit worse. We're going to have a good run here through the final corner, and he goes immediately defensive. We're going to have a little bit of a look here in the slipstream, commit to this outside line, which is absolutely doable into turn 1 at Barcelona. So we're going to hold him a little bit narrow all the way over to the racing line, brake nice and deep, leaving room on the apex there around the outside, claiming turn number 2, and we're going to make sure that we're going to hold the racing line through turn 3. Now, car 17 tries to go around the outside at turn 3. I haven't seen anyone do that in my races, and that actually allows car 12 behind to claim the inside up towards turn number 4. So car 17 losing a couple of positions there, and then in the background, car 18 losing it on exit, finding the concrete barrier and getting himself out of our battle here for 4th position. And a few corners later, exiting the hairpin, car 17 also had their own moment, so it left it with just a couple of us fighting it out for this 4th position. And I've got to admit, car number 12 was doing a really good job to keep the pressure on, and I was obviously very happy that I was able to capitalize on that small mistake earlier in the race and get by this car, because it certainly would have been a hard task at this part of the race. Now, with 5 seconds to the next couple of cars and 8.5 seconds to the leader, it was looking like there was no chance at further positions. However, coming into turn number 4 on lap number 9, we get yellow flags, and it is the leader of the race who's had a big moment out of turn number 4, and it does allow us to move up 1 spot and put me into that 3rd place podium position with 5 minutes to go. So it was just a case now of trying to put in some decent laps to finish this race out. I was in a real groove at this point, having learned from both the good and bad experiences of the previous 2 races, and I was really happy with the pace that I'd managed to find across these 3 events. Obviously, the qualifying continues to be a weak part for me, and I'm going to have to really do my best to try and improve that over the coming weeks, because my race pace here is showing to be pretty consistent. Only 1 incident point as we come into the final set of corners, and in fact this will be the fastest racing lap that I set all week. Considering this is a fixed setup race, doing a low 1 minute 45 felt really good, and to gain 6 spots through that race with some nice clean moves just felt like a lot of positives. We're making some great progress in GT3, and I'm looking forward to continuing that in the coming weeks on iRacing. So another iRacing GT3 week under my belt. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of my driving? What did you think of those races? I certainly had a lot of fun out there. Now for me, the big takeaways were a much stronger and consistent race pace, and my car positioning and racecraft have certainly made a nice step forward in these cars this week, making some really nice passes, and I gotta admit, they felt pretty good. Now, as I look at my progression in iRacing over the last few weeks in these GT3 cars, it's quite clear that things are definitely going in the right direction for me. Up to 2,462 iRating, and that is ultimately over 400 iRating increase in what feels like a pretty short time. Now, I'm not expecting that rate of increase over the next short while. There is no shortage of competition on iRacing, but it's nice to see that what I'm doing is starting to work, and it's just a case of trying to get out there, continue to learn, and continue to make those small steps forward. Of course, we're going to bring all of that to the channel here, so if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more, and if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Would really appreciate that. A huge thank you if you've made it to this part of the video. Get involved in the comments. I'd love to hear how your iRacing journey is going as well. And of course, guys, race hard, stay positive. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.